Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today this will be like a vitamin or a supplement for your heart and mind. And wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, leave a rating and a brief written review. And some of you have done that just recently, and I greatly appreciate it. On today's, I want to talk about the way forward. One of these days, things are going to begin to change a little bit. In the state that I live in, we are still waiting word from our governor as to exactly are we going to start opening up in phases beginning this weekend or not. And I hope you all know that that means that we're going to have to do some things differently, and we're going to have to do some things to prepare. So I'm talking about personally or organizationally, what's the way forward? You know, when you shut things down for a while, it's really difficult to just rev them right back up, and we want to be cautious and prudent and wise and faithful. So what are we going to do? So what do you do when you're trying to find a way forward from where you personally are? This would obviously speak to what's happening in the world right now, but it can speak at many areas of our own lives. One of the things that I have been thinking about a lot during this time is to remember that life is a journey and not just a destination. And this has been a hard place for many. It's been very difficult. I know the parents who are home with small children for 6 weeks, that's been very difficult. There are people who've lost their jobs or been furloughed. It has been a tough time. And then some of you have been ill during this time. But the journey, as I think about my life as a journey, I have been reflecting back on, some of the greatest lessons that I have ever personally learned have come through hard places. As much as I love the mountaintops of life, and I really do, as I look back and reflect, I think of times when I've gone through really difficult times after the fact, and I've done kind of a review of it. I've realized that it's in the hardest places that I've learned some things. First of all, you learn some things about God. You learn some things about yourself. You learn about God that you can trust Him. You learn about yourself that you can really do more than you think you can. That you are being stretched in ways I would never have stretched myself had I not been forced to. And so one of the things that I did last evening in one of my journals was just to write down, and it ended up being about 8 or 9 things that over the years of my life that I have learned when I went through a hard place. And I believe when we get through this hard place we're in right now, we'll all be able to write down some things that we have learned. But you might want to get a jump start on that. The other thing I learned when you understand the way forward, that we're on a journey, is good company makes the journey shorter, so said Isaac Walton. And so don't be totally isolated. I know we are isolated, but you understand you can be in isolation and not necessarily be isolated. Reach out to someone, text them, phone them, send them a message of some sort or an email. Just check in on people, and I'll refer back to that again. But the most wonderful thing about the journey that we're on together, this journey of life with the Lord, is we don't have to go through it on our own. Not only is He with us, but we need to, as leaders, find some other people who say, hey, let's make it together. We are going to do it. Remembering we are headed somewhere we have never been before. So there'll be lots of things to learn. Can I tell you another lesson that I have realized again and again during these last few weeks is that Ron Blake is not in control. The bank isn't in control. The government isn't in control. No one is in control. Only God is in control. So as we go on this journey, it may be a great time to exercise faith and to have some confidence in the fact that even though I don't control it, I don't have to give up. So let's keep working, moving forward, putting one foot in front of the other as we're on this journey. The second thing as the way forward out of all this is don't neglect feeding your heart and mind. Find something to read. Find something to meditate upon. Read the Bible. Remember that we're not going to know it all. Every one of us were a beginner at something. Even those things that you do very well right now, whether it's gardening or cooking or whatever your job is, there was a time when it was a struggle for you. You were a beginner. There have been times in our lives, nearly everyone who's listening to me, at some time in your life, something happened and you had to start over. And you've made it, or you wouldn't be listening today. So maybe this is sort of a do-over, a start over. And when you get frustrated that you're not progressing as quickly as you wish you were, and things aren't falling into place, and you're given to fear of wondering, how am I going to make it? As you're on this journey of life, remember you are a work in progress. But feed your heart, feed your mind. Don't become fearful. Matter of fact, I'm not trying to give you advice, but that's what it's going to be. I would say you probably need to turn the television off a little more often and find something that's a little more encouraging to read. One of the other things that I want to remind us as if we're on this journey is that we all have flaws. We all have things that we need to work on. And rather than focusing on what's wrong with this person and that person and the governor and the politicians and the bankers and the preachers and all of the others, here's a statement I heard years ago that has arrested my want to criticize at times. Someone once said that when no one around you measures up, you probably have the wrong yardstick. It is an amazing thing that we're always telling this one can do better. This is another statement that I've come up with in these days. Everyone seems to know how to do everyone else's job but their own. Everyone is an expert on what this person should say and that person should say. Why don't we take some of this time to say, let's give grace to people. We want to have grace. Let's extend grace to our friends, our neighbors, our family, realizing that we're all imperfect people. We have flaws and things that we need to work on. So remember, let's use, instead of the yardstick of criticism, let's use the yardstick of grace and be gracious and kind to others. I think part of the way forward is all of us are going to have to focus. Most of the time, when people say, I don't have time to do something, of course, you probably couldn't say that over the last 6 weeks, but oftentimes when people say they don't have time, it's not that they don't have time. Everyone is created equal. Everyone has the same 24 hours in every day. It's not a lack of time that's our problem. It's a lack of direction. What is your direction? What is it that you want to see happen? What is it that you want to accomplish? And here's what kind of happens, at least in my life. I think, oh, I wish I would have done that 20. Why did I just now hear that? If I would have only started that practice 30 years ago, I could be so much farther down the road. And we sort of live with regret and throw our hands up and said, well, because I heard it so late, there's nothing I can do. You've certainly heard the old saying, when was the best time to plant an oak tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time to plant an oak tree? Today. When was the best time to start saving for retirement? Well, probably 20 or 30 years ago. But the second best, and probably the best for you right now, is today. When was the best time to start reading through the Bible? 20, 30 years ago, no doubt about it. But you know when the second best time is? Right now. When was the best time to start working on yourself? Probably 20 or 30 years ago. What's the second best time? Right now. Let's start working on some things in ourselves that we want to see happen. One thing that as we're on this journey and we're trying to get our way forward and move our way forward, as I've said, that some of the greatest lessons I have learned have come when there were difficult times. One of the other things is when it's the darkest of times, you must focus on the light. Focus on the light. When it's dark, there's no sense focusing on the darkness. It's everywhere. Focus on the light. Have you ever been in a really dark place and there may be a candle or a lantern a long way away, but that light is where your eyes are fixed? Right now, it's time to fix our eyes on the light of the world, Jesus Christ. It's time to just not give in to the darkness, but to focus on the light. The way forward, how are we going to get way forward? I think this is a great time to get things in order. You only have to look across Facebook to see all of the people who've cleaned out closets and garages and offices, people who've gotten their papers in order because of all of the things that have happened, people getting their taxes filed, they're getting their business affairs taken care of. The way forward is this could have been very well a wake-up call to get our life's situation in order. If there's some areas of our life that are out of order, let's bring them in order. Another way that I would say is the way forward is don't go by yourself. Again, we've heard the word isolation and being isolated and social distancing. I think one of the greatest therapies you can do for yourself and for someone else is I have been asking you often, find 2 people every day that you can encourage. Whether you write them something, whether you call them, whether you text them. Something happens to us when we start looking outward and trying to be a blessing and to help someone else. And when we become self-absorbed and woe is me, and the world is coming to an end, we get more discouraged and more isolated and more fearful. The way forward is to quit thinking about ourselves and start thinking about others. I have one more thing that I think will help us in the way forward, because we're going to begin shifting and implementing and incrementally moving back into other directions, is you ought to sit down today. You really ought to, and make a plan. Here's what I plan on doing. Here's what I plan on changing in my life. Now, I love technology, but when it comes to writing these kinds of things out, I still like the old pen and paper, a journal kind of a method, is to make a plan. From now on, I plan to get in shape. I plan to read the Bible. I plan to save for emergencies. I plan on writing a book. Whatever it is, it's not going to happen if you don't make some intentional decisions. So make a plan. You won't have as good an opportunity as you have right now to sit down, write out a plan, and do those things that you really need to do. The way forward. There is a way forward. And though we have never been in this present situation, it's going to be okay. God has been there and He's waiting on us, and He's going to move us forward. From now on, I'm going to trust Him. From now on, I'm going to say, what lessons are you teaching me? I want to feed my heart and mind and be the person that you want me to be. And remember, it's always in the hard places that you learn the most, and you really learn an important lesson. I think when this is all said and done, I'm going to do a Facebook Live, and I'm going to ask all of you this question. What did you learn going through this situation? Because whatever you learned, I guarantee you it'll be a help and an inspiration and an encouragement to someone else. Don't give up. If you're discouraged, if you think you're not going to make it, give me a call, text me. We are going to make it, and we're going to make it together. And you can do it, and we're going to get through it. I believe in you. God loves you, and I love you, and we will get through all of this. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today this has been like a vitamin or a supplement for your heart and mind. And please, you can receive this podcast wherever podcasts are received. You can get it from iTunes. You can get it from Stitcher, Spotify. Would you go and subscribe and leave a rating and a brief written review? I will help it. It will help so much for others to find it, and I will appreciate it. Remember, my friends, you are doing better than you think you are. You really, truly are. And until next time, have a great and blessed day, and move forward.